What's up, Falcons? It's Mr. C. Hey, this week I just wanted to give you a little video here that's kind of going over the skills that you're going to be learning about as you're reading Hoot chapters 4 through 6. So this is a little PowerPoint presentation. It's going to go over literary devices, elements, and techniques. So a literary device is just a tool that's used in literature, like our novels that we're reading, to help us understand the story and the characters. There's two types of literary devices. Literary elements and techniques. They're a little bit different. Literary terms give us kind of structure to the literature, and all of the literary elements are pretty evident in all the literature that creates a story. So literary techniques, they're specific to each author. They choose which techniques that they'll use. And terms aren't devices. They're simply terms or, words and definitions that help us understand the literature. So here are some literary elements. And these should be familiar to you. Point of view, how the story is being told. Is it being told in the first person? Is the main character your narrator? Are they using I, me, or my? Setting, when and where the story is taking place. The characters and the characterization. What is this character like? Are they a very shy and quiet character? Are they very loud and outgoing? Are they a very thoughtful character? Theme, which you have learned about, which is like a central message of the story that the author wants us to take away from what we've read. The plot, which is what's going on in the story from the beginning, the middle to the end, and then the conflict. So what's the main problem in that story? Literary techniques are used to produce a specific effect on the reader. They often use a variety. Authors will often use a variety of these techniques throughout a piece of literature. So one of them is voice. And voice is kind of like the energy or how you feel after reading something. It's what kind of makes it fun to read. So it'll make you maybe laugh out loud as you're reading, smile to yourself, or maybe you want to cry or cringe. So think about, when we read Wonder and, Augie cracks a joke and we kind of smile to ourselves as we read. That's the author's voice shining through their writing. So it creates a response in the reader. So this unit, Hoot, is full of voice. And every time you laugh or smile to yourself or chuckle, that's showing the author's voice. So if you think about it, email me a quote from Hoot so far that made you laugh, smile, or maybe even cringe. One example of voice was when, think about this statement from Dana Matherson's mother when Roy goes to drop off his apology letter, right? And after you read this, I want you to think about what can you infer or what kind of conclusions can you come to about Mrs. Matherson. Dana's shoulders stiffened. His mother clucked in amusement. You gotta be kidding. This is the little twerp? This little twerp was the one who messed up your face? So what does that line of dialogue tell you about Mrs. Matherson? Is it hard to believe that Dana is her son? Do they kind of seem the same, huh? Mood or atmosphere. So that's just like the emotional feeling that you receive from literature. Is it lighthearted? Is it, a fun or a funny mood? Or is it a more serious mood? It could be scary, happy, nostalgic, exciting, romantic, all of those moods. While you're reading chapter 5, you should be thinking about those different moods. What is the mood in chapter 5? Is it angry? Is it gloomy, playful, upbeat, peaceful? All of those adjectives will describe the mood. Think about the mood for chapter 5 as you read. Imagery. Think about back to our haunted houses that we made way back in the fall. It appeals to our 5 senses. So it'll describe in a lot of depth how something looks, what it feels like, smells like, sounds like, right? The cracking of the glass as the ball crashed through it. Gary Paulson gave us a ton of imagery, right? When he said the mosquitoes swarmed around Brian and they made a living coat on his exposed skin. Think about an imagery example from Hoot, okay? When Roy encounters the snakes that the running boy had in the bag, right? They had broad triangular heads like the prairie rattlers back in Montana, but their bodies were muck-colored and ominously plump. Roy recognized the snakes as cottonmouth moccasins, highly poisonous. They carry no rattles to warn in advance of a strike, but Roy saw that the tips of their stubby tails had been dipped in blue and silver sparkles, the kind used in art projects. It was a most peculiar touch. Roy struggled to remain motionless, while the fat reptiles untangled themselves at his feet. Tongues flicking, some of the moccasins extended their full lengths, while others coiled sluggishly. Roy counted 9 in all. So think about how the descriptive words help us better understand Roy's encounter with the snakes. There was a lot of imagery in that paragraph. A flashback, that's when they interrupt the story, the present action of a plot, to show events that happened in an earlier time. So the story returns or goes back in time to a past event. It's used to tell a past story. It could be a memory of a single character or a memory of the narrator. Roy's encounter with these snakes causes him to have a flashback when he sees a bear and her 2 cubs. Why do you think the author chose to tell us that flashback story? Well, what do we learn about Roy from that flashback? So a flashback will often help us learn more about a character. Foreshadowing. So this is kind of the opposite of a flashback. It's using clues to suggest what's going to occur later on in the future. It's when you give hints or clues about something that will happen. A good example in Hatchet is when the pilot teaches Brian how to fly a plane. That gives us clues that he may need that skill in the future because he does have to fly the plane. And these few slides here are kind of spirals, skills that we've learned about. Alliteration, repetition of the consonant sounds at the beginning of words, the wild and woolly walrus waits and wonders when we'll walk by. Assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds. So feet, fleet, feet, sweep by sleeping geese. So it's kind of similar to alliteration, but it's vowel sounds. Hyperbole, big exaggeration, mile high, ice cream cones. An idiom is an expression that isn't meant to be taken literally. She sings at the top of her lungs, or hold your horses. Metaphor compares 2 things without using like or as. It makes a direct comparison. His hair was silk, her hair was silk. Onomatopoeia, name something by imitating the sound, buzz, hiss, roar, woof. Personification, giving something human qualities that is not human. The stuffed bear smiled as the little boy hugged him close. And a simile, figure of speech that compares 2 unlike things using like or as. The sun is like a yellow ball of fire in the sky. Symbol or symbolism, that's a person or place or thing or event that has meaning and stands for something beyond itself. So they represent other items, the Star of David and Number the Stars. That is a symbol of the Jewish faith, as well as a friendship between Anne-Marie and Ellen. Irony, that's a contrast between what you expect and what is reality. So in Hoot, Garrett's mom's a guidance counselor, you would think Garrett would be a great student, but actually he's the class clown. That's called situational irony. There's other types of irony, verbal and dramatic. So verbal irony is like when they called Curly, they gave him the nickname Curly, but he actually is bald. So that is ironic that they would call him Curly when he doesn't have any hair. So you can go back to this link here if you need to review any of the types of irony. And refrain or repetition. That's when a word or phrase is repeated in pretty close proximity in the text, like within a few paragraphs. It's used to emphasize something or add meaning to what's already being said. It makes us, consciously aware of a point that the author's made or a character's making because they find it important enough to repeat it again. And they did that a lot in Hatchet. Silence. Silence. Brian heard nothing but silence. So rate your understanding of this lesson. You could send me the rating in Teams chat, or you can email, because we're kind of just going by email. So if you think you kind of get it pretty well, that would be a 4. If you got it, but just need a little help, that would be a 2. If you don't really get it and you need help, that would be a 1. So let me know if you need any help. Send me an email. I'll be happy to help you guys. So hopefully this will help you as you read chapters 4 through 6 this week, and then take the quiz on Skyward and the green link. All right. Take care, Falcons.